Hello dear students, welcome to the teleclasses on Business Studies and Management. Today we will read Scientific Management. Scientific management is the art of knowing exactly what is to be done and the best way of doing it. We must have read in our previous classes about management, don't we? We have read what is management. The art of getting things done by others effectively and efficiently is called management. Now, what is this new term? This new term is again making it as an art of getting the things done, but knowing exactly what is to be done and the best way of doing it. Under this system, the method of work is scientifically taught and the workers are selected scientifically and trained scientifically to perform the task, and to most efficient speed is scientifically determined. That means workers selection, the selection of the methods they will perform, the training to perform a task, and the speed with which every worker will work, all are predetermined scientifically. That is why we say it is scientific management. It is a management theory that analyzes workflows to improve economic efficiency, especially labor productivity. So basically, for the economic efficiency and especially for the labor productivity, scientific management is a boon. This management theory developed by F.W. Taylor or Frederick Winslow Taylor. He was an American mechanical engineer and a consultant who proposed the concept of scientific management under the name The Principles of Scientific Management. It was in the year 1911. He was also known as father of scientific management. He believed that best results would come out from the partnership between trained and qualified management and a cooperative and innovative workforce. He believed that in order to achieve success and in order to perform the work successfully with full productivity, cooperation between management and workers are very, very important. So there has to be a partnership between trained and qualified management. That means those people who would be administrating would be trained and qualified, and the workforce should be very, very cooperative and innovative. He believed a worker should get a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. No more, no less. If the worker could not work to the target, then the person should not be working at all. Taylor also believed that management and labor should cooperate and work together to meet the goal. That means the goal should be achieved with the efforts together put by management as well as the workforce. He was the first to suggest that the primary functions of managers should be planning and training. So he was the first to point out that every manager should perform the work of planning as well as training. Taylor thought that by scientifically analyzing work, it would be possible to find one best way to do it. So whatever definition we have read about scientific management, that it is the art of knowing exactly what is to be done and the best way of doing it, that best way can be developed by scientifically analyzing the work. In the year 1909, Taylor published The Principles of Scientific Management. It was a book he published with the name The Principles of Scientific Management, where he suggested that productivity would increase if jobs were optimized and simplified. The scientific management approach propounded by F.W. Taylor is based upon 4 basic principles. Just like the administrative management and the FAILS 14 principles, in scientific management we do have principles. So these are the 4 basic principles, namely science, not the rule of thumb; harmony, not discord; cooperation, not individualism; development of each and every person to his or her greatest efficiency and prosperity. So let us read the principles one by one. The first one is science, not the rule of thumb. This rule focuses on increasing the efficiency of an organization through scientific analysis of work and not with the rule of thumb method. यानी कि एक चीज़ करने के लिए कोई एक तरीका जो बहुत दिनों से चला आ रहा है वो नहीं चलेगा. ऐसा कोई रूल ऑफ थंब नहीं है कि एक काम को करने के लिए इसी प्रक्रिया में वही काम करना होगा. नहीं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. As per the scientific management and as per this principle, as different managers would follow their indigenous rule of thumb, all would not be equally effective. अगर हर मैनेजर को छोड़ दिया जाए कि तुम अपने अनुसार काम करो और अपनी ही एक प्रक्रिया से काम करो तो सभी का रिजल्ट जो है वो अलग आएगा. So Taylor believed that there was only one best method to maximize the efficiency. So टेलर ने कहा अगर सबको इंडिविजुअली एक एक काम जो है वो अपने पद्धति से करने की अनुमति दे दी जाए तो सभी के काम के जो रिजल्ट हैं वो अलग आएंगे. इसलिए उनके अनुसार काम करने का एक बेस्ट तरीका ज़रूर होता है. So this method can be developed through study and analysis. And how to find out that best method? By study and analyzing the work. And the method so developed should substitute rule of thumb throughout the organization. और study और analysis के बाद आपने जो method सोचा है एक particular काम को करने के लिए वो बहुत दिनों से चली आ रही मेथड को उसे सब्स्टिट्यूट करना है. उसके बदले में पुराने दिनों से चली आ रही मेथड के बदले में हम वही मेथड को यूज़ करेंगे जिसे हमने स्टडी और एनालिसिस से तैयार किया है. साइंटिफिक मेथड इन्वॉल्व इन्वेस्टिगेशन ऑफ ट्रेडिशनल मेथड्स थ्रू वर्क स्टडी, यूनिफाइंग द बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस एंड डेवलपिंग अ स्टैंडर्ड मेथड. तो कैसे निकालेंगे साइंटिफिक मेथड? यू नीड टू इन्वेस्टिगेट द ट्रेडिशनल मेथड्स. जो ट्रेडिशनल मेथड्स हैं उनको देखना पड़ेगा, उन पे वर्क स्टडी करना पड़ेगा. यू नीड टू यूनिफाई द बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस एंड देन डेवलप अ स्टैंडर्ड मेथड. According to Taylor, even a small production activity like loading pigs of iron into boxcars can be scientifically planned and managed. This can result in tremendous saving of human energy as well as wastage of time and material. यानी कि if there is a standard method to do a particular job, to do a particular task, then it will save the time, it will save the human energy and will reduce the wastages of time and material used to do a particular work. Let us read the second principle, harmony, not discord. Taylor believed that the relationship between the workers and the management should be cordial and based on complete harmony. That means there should be a friendly relationship, cordial relationship between workers and the management. Any difference between the two will never give benefits to either side. अगर दोनों के बीच में कोई भी मनमुटाव है तो ना मैनेजमेंट ठीक से एंजॉय कर पाएगी, ना वर्कर्स ठीक से काम कर पाएंगे. ना मैनेजमेंट जो गोल अचीव करना चाहती है वो अचीव कर पाएगी, ना वर्कर्स जो है वो शांति से काम कर पाएंगे और गोल कंट्रीब्यूशन में, गोल अचीवमेंट में कंट्रीब्यूट कर पाएंगे. सो मैनेजमेंट एंड वर्कर्स शुड एक्नॉलेज and understand importance of each other. So it becomes very, very important that management should understand how important workers are and workers should also understand how important management is. In all type of organization, there is always a conflict of thoughts between workers and management. ये हर जगह होता है. वर्कर्स और मैनेजमेंट के बीच जो है मनमुटाव सा लगा ही रहता है. Workers generally feel that they are overburdened and underpaid. वर्कर्स सोचते हैं कि बहुत ज़्यादा काम कराया जा रहा है उनसे और वो उनको जो है उनके काम के अनुसार जो है पगार नहीं मिलती. Whereas the management feels that workers are not focused or they do not work efficiently. इसके विपरीत जो है मैनेजमेंट ये सोचती है कि वर्कर्स जो है वो बिल्कुल काम नहीं करते, थकते हैं काम पे आकर और बिल्कुल भी अपने गोल पे फोकस नहीं करते. So he introduced this principle for the peaceful coexistence of workers and employees, which will help to improve efficiency of the workers. So that is why he introduced this principle of harmony, not discord. To achieve this state, Taylor called for complete mental revolution on the part of both management as well as workers. यानी कि ये जो चिंताधारा है इसको पूरा चेंज करना होगा. So there has to be a revolution to be brought in your mental thought process. Hence, this will help to build a friendly working environment which will develop harmonious relationship between both workers as well as the management. In such a situation, even trade unions will not think of going on strike. Management should share the gains of the company, if any, with the workers, and at the same time, workers should work hard to give their best. Let us read the third principle. Cooperation, not individualism. There should be complete cooperation between the laborers and the management instead of individualism. Basically, this principle is an extension of principle of harmony, not discord. Competition should be replaced by cooperation. Both should realize that they need each other. यानी कि मैनेजमेंट और वर्कर्स के बीच कोई कंपटीशन नहीं, कोऑपरेशन होना चाहिए. They must understand the importance of each other that we have already discussed in our second principle of harmony, not discord. They should be rewarded for their suggestions. That they means the workers should be rewarded for their suggestions, which results in substantial reduction in cost. They should be part of the management if any important decisions are taken. Clear? That means management should give importance to the individuals, to the workers in taking any important decisions if it is required at all. The management should take care of workers and determine plans after taking their suggestions. This will help workers to work efficiently and achieve the goals. Managers should also share the gains of the company with the workers. अगर workers के बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छे काम करने के कारण कंपनी को मुनाफा होता है तो मैनेजमेंट का ये कर्तव्य बनता है कि वो उस गेन को, उस प्रॉफिट को एम्प्लॉयज़ के बीच बांटे, वर्कर्स के बीच बांटे, डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करे. This will build mutual trust and feeling of belongingness in both. Similarly, if management is taking a step ahead, then the workers should also show their willingness to work. They should give their best contribution to the company. So, we can say that prosperity of any organization cannot exist without prosperity of the worker. And the last one is development of each and every person to his or her greatest efficiency and prosperity. Industrial efficiency depends to a large extent on personal competencies. Taylor was one of the view that the concern for efficiency could be built in right form, right from the process of employee selection. इसका मतलब है कि एक काम को सक्सेसफुली करने के लिए अगर हमें कॉम्पिटेंट एम्प्लॉयज चाहिए तो उसका जो सिलेक्शन है वो एक कॉम्पिटेंट एम्प्लॉय का जो सिलेक्शन बहुत मायने रखता है. This is because the efficiency of a company is directly proportional to the efficiency of its workers. Workers can be equipped with the required skill through various training programs conducted by the organizations. So, each person should be selected scientifically. Then, work should be assigned which should suit his or her physical, mental and intellectual capabilities. When we are choosing a worker to do a work, he should be first selected scientifically and second, work should be assigned ऐसा काम उनको देना चाहिए जो वो physically, mentally और intellectual capabilities हैं उनमें वो काम करने के लिए. Efficient employees would produce more and would help in earning more. This will ensure their greatest efficiency and prosperity for both company and worker. That means if you are going to select the workers scientifically, you are giving them works which is both suiting their physical, mental and intellectual capabilities and they will work efficiently. This will ensure greatest efficiency and prosperity for not only the company but also for the workers. Dear students, let us now discuss Fayol's approach and Taylor's approach towards management. We will make a comparison between the two on the basis of human aspect first. Taylor disregards human elements and there is more stress on improving men, materials and methods, whereas Fayol pays due regards on human elements. We can see that in the principle of initiative, esprit de corps and equity, where human relationships are given more importance. Next come status. Taylor was regarded as father of scientific management, whereas we regard Fayol as father of management principles. Taylor's approach stresses on efficiency, whereas Fayol's approach stresses on general administration. Taylor's has micro approach because it is restricted to factory only, whereas Fayol has macro approach and discusses general principles of management which are applicable in every field of management. The scope of principles in case of Taylor, suggested by Taylor's, are restricted to production activities only, whereas the principles suggested by Fayol are applicable in all kinds of organization regarding their management affairs. Taylor's approach is regarded as scientific management, whereas Fayol's approach is regarded in administrative management. And in case of Taylor, more emphasis was given on top level management, whereas Fayol gave more stress on lower level management. Applicability: Taylor's principles and approaches have universal applicability, whereas Fayol's principles are applied to specialized organizations only. Let us now discuss the advantages and disadvantages, because every coin has two sides. So, when we have discussed scientific management, we need to discuss what are the merits or advantages of it, and we will also discuss the disadvantages. So, let us first read the advantages of scientific management. The scientific management replaces the old system of management, rule of thumb, method, and introduces new and scientific methods. That means whatever old methods were applicable in the business since many ages, those were now discarded, and new principles, new technology of doing a work, the new techniques of doing a work are given more stress. So, we say that it replaces the old system of management, rule of thumb method, and introduces new and scientific method. Second point, careful time and motion studies eradicates delays, avoid bodily strains of workers, eliminate wastages, and thereby contribute to the efficiency of workers, and ensures wastages or less wastage and proper utilization of the resources. There are various techniques suggested by Taylor, like motion study, time study, which have got their own advantages. About all these we would be discussing in subsequent classes. So, when these studies like motion studies eradicates the unwanted movements, avoids bodily strains of the workers, eliminates the wastages, and thereby contribute towards the efficiency, it increases the efficiencies. So, those techniques which are developed through scientific management helps in increasing the efficiency of the workers and ensures less wastages of the resources and proper utilization of the resources. It seeks to introduce a mental revolution, a change in the mind setup or change in the thought process, okay, in the ideas of both employer as well as employee. That means previously employer and employee may be having good thought about, but we can't be sure of. But normally we have discussed that normally the workers, they have a negative attitude towards management, and management also had a negative attitude towards worker. So, this particular scientific management gives a scope, or it says that there has to be a mental revolution. An employee, there has to be a mental revolution with respect to both employees as well as the employers, and ensures cooperation of the labor force. It also gives stress on the cooperation between both workers as well as the management. It aims to standardize the materials, tools, equipments and methods of work. That means every material, tools, equipments, method of doing a work is standardized. There is a best way of doing it. We have discussed it in the previous or in the first slide of the class. We have seen that the best way of doing a work is always there, and that has to be developed through scientific management. So, there is a standardized material, tool, equipment and method of work. It seeks a reduction in the cost of production through increased output. So, because of less wastages, because of proper utilization of the resources, the cost of production reduces, the output increases. This would help the organization to compete on a better footing and thereby enlarge their market. The workers are in a position to get higher wages. This removes most of the causes of industrial disputes, because the workers are paid according to the efficiency, according to the work they do. So, when the worker is getting the wage according to what he has done, there is no dispute between the management and the workers. Further, enhanced earning also lead to higher standard of living of the workers. But every coin has two sides. When there are advantages, there are certain criticisms of scientific management. So, let us discuss those criticisms. Scientific management leads to monotony for the workers, since they have to use standardized ways and cannot implement their innovation and creativity to their work. As we have discussed, there is a standard way of using a tool, technique and method. So, it leads to some kind of a monotony. बार बार एक ही चीज को करने में बोरियत या फिर monotony हो जाती है. So, as a result of which, it creates monotony for the workers, because they have to use the standardized ways and cannot implement their innovation and creative works. They cannot use something new because there is a standardized way of doing it. So, no innovation, no scope for innovation or creativity. The employer considers scientific management as a time consuming process, since it takes very long to bring mental revolution and implement standardization and specialization in the organization. It is from the employer's point of view, they think that this scientific management is a time consuming process, because to bring a change in the mindset of management and workers, it takes a lot of time. अभी बोल देने पर employer का management के प्रति या management का employees का management के प्रति या management का employees के प्रति attitude रातों रात change नहीं होगा. It will take some time, so it is time consuming. The implementation of scientific management is an expensive affair. It is quite expensive. A lot of cost is incurred on planning and training of the workers and the administration. That means when we say that the employee selected should be selected scientifically, and to improve his efficiency or her efficiency, training is required. So, it involves cost. So, this is quite expensive. These techniques of scientific management are quite expensive for the management. This concept focuses on increasing productivity of organizations. However, it may lead to overproduction, which further results in recession. ज़्यादा productivity होने पर, ज़्यादा production होने पर resources जो हैं वो idle बैठे रहेंगे. So, this has to be also taken care, and because of this, scientific management is criticized. So, dear students, we have covered today in today's class, we have discussed what is scientific management, what are the various principles of scientific management. We have also discussed and compared the Fales approach towards management and Taylor's approach towards management. We have also discussed advantages and disadvantages of scientific management. Along with the scientific management principles, Taylor also introduced some methods to improve the productivity of the workers and ensure smooth functioning of the organization. These methods were majorly developed from the manufacturing and production industry and were based on his analysis of such units. So let us discuss what are the various techniques that Taylor has suggested. These are the techniques: the technique of functional foremanship, standardization and simplification of work, work study, differential piece wage system, and mental revolution. Where you can see, dear students, work study is further segregated into 4 headings: fatigue study, method study, time study, and motion study. So let us explore each and every technique now. Functional foremanship. According to this particular technique, Taylor suggested that to improve efficiency and effectiveness of the operational activities, the managers must possess specific skills like leadership, intelligence, tactical skills, knowledge, judgment, education, experience, honesty, good health, and energy. He realized that no single person could have all these qualities. जाहिर सी बात है, एक आदमी में सारी qualities तो हो ही नहीं सकती. So therefore, he came up with the idea that the managerial activities should be divided into 2 parts. Since एक आदमी में सारी क्वालिटीज़ नहीं हो सकती, सो टेलर ने ये सजेस्ट किया कि एक जो मैनेजरियल वर्क है, द मैनेजरियल वर्क इज टू बी डिवाइडेड इनटू 2 पार्ट्स. एक है प्लानिंग, दूसरा है प्रोडक्शन. टेलर एडवोकेटेड सेपरेशन ऑफ प्लानिंग एंड एग्जीक्यूटिव फंक्शंस. This concept was extended to the lowest level of the shop floor. It was known as functional foremanship. Under the factory manager, there was a planning in charge and a production in charge. So इस टेक्निक के अनुसार एक जो फैक्ट्री मैनेजर है, लोअर लेवल में जो फैक्ट्री मैनेजर है, उसके अंडर एक प्लानिंग इंचार्ज होता है और एक प्रोडक्शन इंचार्ज होता है. प्लानिंग इंचार्ज. A planning in charge is responsible for the formulation of policies, strategies and procedures of the operational activities. उसका जो काम है प्लानिंग इंचार्ज का, that is he is responsible for formulation of policies, strategies and procedures of the operational activities. To simplify the work, 4 clerks are appointed under the planning in charge. So who are they? Instruction and card clerk, route clerk, time and cost clerk, disciplinarian. Instruction and card clerk will determine and direct how the workers has to be performed. So he has to do this work. He'll give instructions. Then comes route clerk. A route clerk will decide what all is to be done and the step which are to be taken to perform a particular task. एक पर्टिकुलर काम को करने के लिए क्या क्या रूट्स, क्या क्या स्टेप्स अपनाने होंगे, रूट क्लर्क का काम है उसको बताना. टाइम एंड कॉस्ट क्लर्क. द पर्सन हु डिटर्मिन्स द टाइम लिमिट इन विच द वर्कर इज टू बी कंप्लीटेड and the cost involved in carrying out each task is known as time and cost clerk. यानी कि टाइम एंड कॉस्ट क्लर्क का काम है कि एक आदमी को एक काम कितने टाइम में करना चाहिए वो बताएगा और कितना कितने कॉस्ट के अंदर करना चाहिए वो बताएगा. डिसिप्लिनरियन. अ डिसिप्लिनरियन इज अ क्लर्क हु एंश्योर्स डिसिप्लिन. यानी कि प्रत्येक काम जो है वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का जो रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस है उसके अंडर हो रहा है या नहीं. सो डिसिप्लिनरियन इज अ क्लर्क हु एंश्योर्स discipline, following rules and regulations and code of conduct in the organization. Then comes production in charge. A production in charge needs to take care of all the operational and production activities. So he has to take care of operational as well as production activities. And under him also 4 clerks are assigned to perform some tasks. So who are these 4 clerks? Speed boss, gang boss, repair boss and inspector. क्या काम है इन लोगों का? स्पीड बॉस इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर गेटिंग द वर्क डन ऑन टाइम. किस गति में काम करने पर काम जो है वो खत्म होगा वो डिटरमिन करना स्पीड बॉस का काम है. Gang boss is responsible for keeping machines and tools ready for operations by the workers. यानी कि फैक्ट्री में वर्कर्स काम कर रहे हैं, जिस तरह छोड़ के चले गए, नेक्स्ट दिन वो फिर से काम करने आए तो टूल्स एंड इक्विपमेंट अगर अपनी जगह पे नहीं होंगे तो वर्कर जो है उसको ढूंढने में टाइम चला जाएगा. तो गैंग बॉस का जो काम है, ही इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल इन कीपिंग द मशीन्स एंड टूल्स ready for the workers. Then comes repair boss. The repair boss has to take care of repairs and maintenance of the tools and machineries. अगर tools and machineries खराब होते हैं तो उसको रिपेयर करना, उसको ठीक करना रिपेयर बॉस का काम है. Inspector is responsible for ensuring that all activities are being carried out in planned manner. Inspector का काम है इंस्पेक्ट करना कि जो प्लान किया गया था कि एक काम को जो है इस पर्टिकुलर वे में किया जाएगा, इतने टाइम में, इतने स्पीड में, वो ठीक से हो रहा है कि नहीं, वो इंस्पेक्टर जो है इंस्पेक्ट करेगा. He or she is also requires to check whether the quality of the product are as per the standards or not. Quality of the work स्टैंडर्ड के अनुसार है या नहीं, ये डिटरमिन करना भी इंस्पेक्टर का काम है. Functional foremanship is an extension of the principle of division of work and specialization. So फेल के जो दो प्रिंसिपल थे उनको कंबाइन करने पर जो है functional foremanship प्रिंसिपल जो है वो बनता है. Each worker will have to take orders from these 8 foremen. यानी कि प्रत्येक वर्कर को जो है जो 8 फोरमैन है, हमने डिस्कस किया 8 क्लर्क्स हैं, इन लोगों से जो है इनका ऑर्डर जो है फॉलो करना पड़ेगा. A worker is responsible for actually performing the given task. Each worker is supervised and monitored by 8 different clerks. So, we can conclude that the functional foremanship is the only scientific management technique which is contrary to the principle of unity of command. क्योंकि यूनिटी ऑफ कमांड में हमने पढ़ा था कि एक वर्कर जो है वो एक सुपीरियर से लेगा, लेकिन फंक्शनल फोरमैनशिप कहती है कि एक वर्कर जो है वो 8 सुपीरियर से ऑर्डर्स लेगा एज पर फंक्शनल फोरमैनशिप. देन कम्स स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन एंड सिंप्लीफिकेशन ऑफ वर्क. क्या मतलब है इसका? साइंटिफिक मेथड्स शुड बी यूज्ड टू एनालाइज मेथड्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन prevalent under the rule of thumb. The best practice can be kept and further refined to develop a standard which should be followed throughout the organization. So, we can say that standardization refers to the process of setting standards for every business activity. It can be standardization of process, raw material, time, product, machinery, methods or working condition. So, these standards they serve as a benchmark which must be adhered to during productions. So, the objective of standardization is to reduce a given line or product to fixed type, sizes and characteristics, to establish interchangeability of manufactured parts and products, to establish standards of excellence and quality in material, and to establish standards of performance of men and machine. हर मशीन हो, मटेरियल हो, सबके काम का एक स्टैंडर्ड होना चाहिए, उसके बिलो काम नहीं होना चाहिए. सो ये जो बेंचमार्क है ये स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन फिक्स करती है. सिंप्लीफिकेशन एम्स एट एलिमिनेटिंग सुपरफ्लुअस वैरायटीज, साइजेस एंड डायमेंशंस विद स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन. सिंप्लीफिकेशन एम्स एट एलिमिनेटिंग अननेसेसरी डाइवर्सिटी ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स. जितने सिंपल वे में काम हो सके सिंप्लीफिकेशन गिव एम्फोसिस ऑन दैट. इट इम्प्लाइज रिड्यूस्ड इन्वेंटरीज, fuller utilization of equipment and increasing turnover. Let us read work study, one more technique of scientific management. Taylor emphasized on examining and analyzing the working at operational levels of the organization. In this particular technique, Taylor has given emphasis in examining and analyzing the working at the operational level. It develops a systematic course of action and resolves the problems faced by the laborers and workers who are responsible for accomplishing the given task and duties. We can divide this work study into 4 elements or components. One is your fatigue study, second one is method study, third one is time study and the fourth one is motion study. Let us now read the fatigue study. Fatigue means tiredness. Okay. Fatigue study seeks to determine the amount and frequency of rest intervals in completing a task. When a person works continuously or for a certain period of time, he is a human being, he will get tired. So he needs rest. A person is bound to feel tired physically and mentally if he is working continuously and he has not taken rest for a while. So at this particular point of time, if he is feeling tired, then he cannot work efficiently. So rest intervals will help to regain stamina and work again. So if he is tired by continuously working and he is allowed to take rest for a while, then after taking rest, he will regain his stamina and work with the same capacity. This will result in increased productivity. So under this fatigue study, the organization needs to plan for the following. क्या? First है the number of rest intervals. कितने number of rest intervals होने चाहिए? The organization need to decide the number of times for which rest is allowed to the laborers in a day. एक वर्कर को एक दिन में कितनी बार रेस्ट मिलनी चाहिए वो डिटरमिन करना है. सो द नंबर ऑफ रेस्ट इंटरवल्स, frequency of rest intervals, the time intervals after which the employee rest is scheduled. कितनी बार आनी चाहिए, terms as frequency. So you need to also determine the frequency of the rest interval. Then comes duration. कितने duration के लिए एक वर्कर को जो है रेस्ट करने की अनुमति मिलनी चाहिए. The organization also determine the period of each rest interval such that the worker neither remains exhausted nor moves into state of laziness. ज़्यादा देर तक रेस्ट किया तो लेजी भी हो सकता है, कम रेस्ट करने को मिला तो एनर्जी जो है रीगेन करने के लिए नहीं बचेगी. You cannot regain the energy. So fatigue study helps in reducing the fatigue or tiredness among the workers, increasing the efficiency of the workers and maintains the operational efficiency of the workers. Then comes method study. Method study aims to find out one best way of doing the job. There are various methods of doing the job. Out of all these possible methods, selection of the most appropriate way, which is cost effective and also it increases the production, is considered as a method study. Right from procurement of raw material till the final product is delivered to the customer, every activity is a part of method study. So the right way of doing a particular job is called your method study. Then comes time study. This study helps in determining the time required by an average skilled worker to efficiently perform a particular job. That means in order to perform a job efficiently and effectively, how much time do you require? That is to be determined in this study. Time study helps in determining the standard time for the job. So, time study is used to measure precisely the time required in doing every element of a job with the purpose of defining or deciding the fair day's work. So, basically what are the objectives? The objectives of time study are to determine the number of workers to be employed so that in a particular time period the goal can be accomplished, framing suitable incentive schemes and determining the cost of the workers. So, this study helps in determining scientifically the standard time required to perform the job. It helps in creating time consciousness among the worker. क्योंकि एक काम को करने के लिए अगर एक स्पेसिफिक टाइम निर्धारित किया गया है and every worker is required to work in that time only, so workers will become conscious when he would be working because he has to work within that time frame. It also helps in measuring the efficiency of the worker. It restricts or it helps in restricting the carelessness of the employee. The employee will not become careless because he knows that within this particular time period he has to finish the work. And it is very, very important to point out this point because it helps in determining the efficient as well as inefficient workers. Those who complete the work within the time are efficient, those who consume more time are inefficient. Then comes motion study. The study of examining each and every movement of the worker during the working hour to find out the unproductive movements are and eliminating them is called motion study. That means when we do a particular work, there are some steps or some process. When you go to, suppose आप किचन जा रहे हो, किचन में खाना पका रहे हो, खाना पकाने के लिए लाइटर जलाना पड़ेगा, गैस को आप लाइटर से जला रहे हो, तो लाइटर जो है वो गैस के पास रहनी चाहिए. लेकिन अगर लाइटर जो है वो दूर कहीं और पड़ा हुआ है तो आप अननेसेसरी दूर जगह पे जाएंगे, लाइटर उठाएंगे, आएंगे और लाइटर को जलाएंगे. उसके बाद आपको जो पकाना है, वो जो सामग्रियां हैं वो गैस के पास होनी चाहिए. वो अगर दूर जगह पे रखी हुई हैं कहीं पे तो आप फिर से चल के जाएंगे, लेके आएंगे. सो दिस इज अनवांटेड movements consuming unwanted time. So these are to be studied and eliminated. So what is the process? What is the step involved? There are 3 steps involved. First, to determine movement of workers while performing the job. You need to see what movement the worker is performing when he's or he's doing when he's performing a particular job. Then you need to differentiate between productive and unproductive or incidental movements. The movements which are productive, which are non-productive, okay. And then you need to eliminate, you need to discard, you need to eliminate the unwanted movements. So particularly this study helps in finding and eliminating the unnecessary motions of the workers on the job. It also helps in increasing the efficiency of the workers because unwanted movement you are not doing and you are not getting tired. And also it helps in reducing the fatigue and manual labor, and it helps in increasing the production and the productivity of the worker. Let us now read one more technique, which is differential piece wage system. Dear students, the wages paid to the workers according to this technique should be based on their production capability. The number of pieces labor can manufacture in a given period instead of a fixed rate of remuneration. So, Taylor introduced different rate of wage payment for those who performed above standard and for those who performed below standard. He wanted to differentiate between efficient and inefficient workers. So, for that what did he do? He tried to differentiate the workers as efficient and inefficient on the basis of the number of units they produced. Number of units they are going to produce, there has to be a benchmark. Let us take an example. Suppose it is said that a worker producing one box, or we say one box will get rupees 10. A worker producing one box will get rupees 10. The standard fixed for producing the boxes is 100. That means each worker producing 100 boxes will get at the rate of rupees 10, which is rupees 1000. This is standard that we were discussing, that a worker producing one box will get rupees 10. The standard fixed is 100 boxes. So, if a worker is producing 100 boxes, he will get 1000. If somebody produces 90, then he will get at the rate of rupees 10, he will get 900. And if somebody is producing 110, then he will be getting at the rate of rupees 10, 1000, this much. If somebody is producing more, he is getting more. If somebody is producing less, he is getting less. So, here we are able to distinguish between efficient and inefficient worker. So, Taylor suggested the idea of performance based remuneration and incentive based motivation. Next comes mental revolution. The basic idea behind the mental revolution is to change the mental attitude of workers and the management towards each other. Mental revolution requires that there should be perfect cooperation and coordination between the efforts of laborers and the management. Normally the workers and the management, they do not think good about each other. We have discussed that workers, they think that management is not taking care of them, and management think that the workers are not working properly. It requires that management should create suitable working condition and solve all the problems of the workers scientifically. The employee should not consider themselves as just workers of the organization. So this mental revolutions, what does it mean? It means that employee should not consider themselves as the workers of the organization, but believe themselves to be the member of a family. Unless and until if both are working and they are satisfied, they are happy working with each other, then there won't be any conflict. Even the management must understand that the workers are human beings and an essential part of the organization. So कहने का मतलब है कि when we are working together, a change in the mindset of management as well as change in the mindset of workers is required. Workers should feel that management is considering us, is taking our views, we are a part of the company, and in a similar way with the attitude of the workers, management should feel that whatever money it is spending on the workers, they are worthing it, they are working efficiently. Okay, so we can say that mental revolution requires that there should be perfect cooperation and coordination between the efforts of laborers and the management. So what does it imply? It requires that management should create condition, working condition rather, which is suitable for the employees. Employees are working happily and employees are feeling the company as their own, and they are putting their best. They are putting their best efforts so as to achieve the goal effectively and efficiently. Even the management must understand that workers are human beings. If workers are working without any emotions, management is not considering them as human beings, then there won't be any attachment between the two. Both of them must value the efforts of each other. Both of them must understand that workers should understand management is important for them, management should understand workers are important to them. Both of them cannot sustain without each other's cooperation and coordination. So here cooperation and coordination both are important, and this attitude which was not present earlier with the management and which was not present with workers also, because of which there were riots, there were lockdowns, okay, दंगा फसाद मैनेजमेंट और वर्कर्स के ट्रेड यूनियन के बीच, ये तो आम मुद्दा है जो कि नॉर्मली सभी कंपनीज में देखा जाता है, बहुत सारे बिजनेस फर्म्स में देखा जाता है. सो इन ऑर्डर टू गेट आउट ऑफ दिस change in the mindset of people, basically people here are the management and the workers is very, very important. So both of them, both management and workers must value the efforts of each other and work together, creating a positive environment to achieve common organizational goal and objectives. So dear students, today we have read the various techniques of scientific management. Hope you have understood all the techniques. Thank you.